Engines. All right, so we're talking about engines. What's an engine? An engine is something that where we take chemical energy and convert it into kinetic energy, and we take linear motion and convert it into rotary motion. All engines, no matter what type of engine, two-stroke, four-stroke, diesel, anything else, you need air and fuel mixed in the proper proportions. What we do is we take that air, that oxygen, and the fuel, in our case, gasoline, you mix it and you blow it up. And you use that explosion. We trap that energy and point the explosive energy in a specific direction so we can use it to do useful work. So in an internal combustion engine, which is what these are, we need the proper mixture of gasoline or fuel and oxygen, air. All right? If you think, have you ever heard of a flooded engine? Think of a flooded basement or a flooded city. That's too much gasoline. All right? So we need to have them in the proper proportions. We also need the gasoline to be atomized. What does atomized mean? Atomized, think of the word atom, right? Think of tiny little pieces. We use a device called a carburetor, which we're going to talk about later, to atomize the gasoline and break it down into teeny tiny particles inside with the oxygen. So then when it's ignited, it explodes. If it's atomized, if it's smaller, there's actually more surface area. Even though it's smaller pieces, there's more surface area. And it can light and ignite faster, more immediately. So it gives us more of an explosion, which we can use to do useful work rather than burning slowly. Whatever you do, all right, do not light gasoline on fire for the fun of it. When that happens, it burns too slowly to do any usable work like what we do with engines. And also, you can get extremely hurt so quickly that you won't even realize what happened. Gasoline has fumes. So if you were to take a lighter and hover it over a puddle of gasoline, the fumes will ignite first, then ignite the gasoline, and then ignite you. All right? This is not something you should be messing around with. Make sure you take proper precautions and safety into mind when you're using gasoline and igniting it. This is safe, relatively, all right? But you need to understand that danger. So, the basics. Like I said, you take air into an engine, you explode it, and you use it to do useful work. This is a stripped apart engine, and there's 4 main pieces to an engine. This is a 4-stroke lawnmower engine, but the same 4 pieces you can find in the 2-stroke engine, in a diesel engine, this is a 1-cylinder, but in multiple cylinder engines, you're going to find the same 4 things. First is the cylinder. You're going to find a piston. This is the piston right here that rides inside of the cylinder. There's a connecting rod. Come on. That's the connecting rod that connects the piston to the final piece, which is the crankshaft. All right? So what we do is we trap our explosion right here. There's a cover on top. We trap the explosion, and it pushes on that piston. As we push on that piston, connecting rod turns the crankcase, the crankshaft rather. So the chemical energy of the gasoline and fuel mixture, or the fuel and air mixture rather, the chemical energy of that gets exploded. It then moves this, turning it into kinetic energy. So that's the first transformation. Also, you see that the piston is moving straight up and down. It's kind of hard to imagine, but you can see that it's moving just up and down, right? So it's moving in a line. This linear motion through the connecting rod and the crankshaft becomes rotary motion. And that's the beauty of the engine right there. It takes chemical energy and turns it into kinetic energy, and it takes linear motion and turns it into rotary motion with those 4 main parts: the cylinder, the piston, the crank shaft, and the connecting rod. that's the simple basics of an engine. We're going to talk a lot more about the construction of an engine, all the different parts, how they work together, and how we use engines in our everyday lives.